please visit ramadanfm.com.
Ramadan, 87.9 FM.
You're listening to The Health Show with your host, Abdul Rais.
All goodness and beauty, to love Him more than our lives is a duty. He is all perfection, all goodness and beauty.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Health Show on Ramadan FM 87.9 FM with me, Abdul Rais. You can also listen to this show live via our website ramadanfm.com, via facebook.com, and via YouTube live. Just search for Ramadan FM live and you should get the right channel. For WhatsApp calls, our number is 07591 970 241. That's 07591 970 241. The topic of discussion today is disability. Imagine a little girl being the youngest and the only female among her siblings. Naturally, she's spoiled by everyone in the family. She has an ambition that she'd like to become a professional footballer or a cricketer when she grows up. Perhaps a bit of a tomboy. Now imagine her having sight loss, sight issues, before even reaching teenage. Over the years, this leads to complete loss of sight, and she ends up being registered blind. She accepts that she would no longer be able to play football or cricket, but her disability does not deter her from wanting to do something else, from wanting to go into further education and to carve an alternative career for herself. For a while, she considers going into law, but subsequently decides her career in accountancy. She has a successful career today with Merseyside Police in their accounts department. Not only that, but she also presents a show called Let's Talk on Pendle Community Radio in Lancashire. Over the years, she's also done tremendous amount of work for various charities and organizations, not just here in the UK, but also abroad. I was hoping at this point in time she would have joined us, but as I said, she's on her way, and inshallah, I think I can just about see that she's logged on. So without further ado, I would like you to meet our special guest for the day, Saima Ashraf. Assalamu alaikum, Saima.
Walaikum salam. How are you, Abdul?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. Alhamdulillah, yourself?
Alhamdulillah, very well. Can you hear me? Because your line was cutting
yes, we can hear
a little bit.
All right, now we can hear you clearly. I have given a very brief description while you were trying to log on, so I'm glad you're here. So perhaps if I can begin by asking you about your feelings. I mentioned to my listeners that, you know, at the time between the age of 10 and 12, when you were facing sight issues, and you know, even before reaching teenage, I'd just like to know, what were your thoughts and feelings at the time? How did you take that?
Yeah, so basically, obviously, I started kind of experiencing sight loss from the age of, the earliest I can remember is between like the age of 10, 11 years old, and I noticed kind of when I was playing in the playground, etc., when I was trying to see people from afar, when I was trying to read the board in classrooms, I was struggling to read it, and this is the first time that I realized that there's something wrong with my sight. But obviously, at such a young age, you don't really think that there could be something significant wrong. I started wearing glasses and stuff, but I didn't think that anything, like a condition that was going to leave me with blindness was on the card. So, initially I just carried on. I was the youngest of 5 siblings. I had 3 elder brothers. I was very wanting to be like them, a real tomboy at that age, playing a lot of sports, a lot of football, cricket, etc. And only noticed as I was playing these sports that, sometimes from afar I was struggling to see the ball and things. And the first time it kind of was highlighted to me was when a nurse came into school to do an eye test, and she noticed I remember sitting in the chair as well and looking at the chart, noticing such a significant change in my sight. I could remember reading quite a lot of the letters that I could in the past, and I saw I was struggling. So that's when the nurse referred me to Manchester Royal Eye Hospital. I'm from Blackburn, so from the Royal Blackburn here and in Preston as well. And then it was over the next 6-7 years. I was in and out of hospital, lots of appointments, lots of tests. And I kind of resulted with night blindness pretty much straight away, which means you can't see in the dark. And obviously, as a teenager, a lot of the things I used to do, riding a bike, and as I mentioned, all the sports and things, everything became difficult for me to do. And so I resented a lot of things. I was very angry. I was very upset. I was kind of questioning why me, the real end of the world mentality, and particularly being from British Pakistani kind of background, not my direct family of my parents or my siblings, but extended relatives, their reaction was very negative, and being surrounded by that negativity just made me more and more depressed. So, up until the age of 15, 16, it was real difficult to accept that I had a problem, and I was going to need to, support, and life was going to change. And during the course of that time, my sight deteriorated even more. And so, it was a really difficult time for me coming to terms with all of that.
So on the one hand, puberty, teenage years are difficult enough as they are, because so much changes, internal changes going on body-wise and stuff. You're coping with that on one side, and you're coping with the loss of sight on the other. And sadly, as you said, we are from a culture, the Asian culture, where any kind of disability is either laughed at, or this sympathy sort of develops for the person, rather than trying to help them in a positive way. It ends up that people often sort of do it in a negative way. I think we've all experienced, and you most of all. My question really is that, despite all of those difficulties, at the worst time anybody could have, like during teenage years, how on earth, where did you get this courage of guidance or spirit from to make of yourself what you did in the end? We'll discuss that later on, but I just wondered what inspired you to carry on.
A couple of things. My faith. I was always very practicing, and obviously, like, I did go through that journey of kind of questioning everything. But I have an uncle who has been a real kind of rock in my life and a real guide in my life. And obviously, it was a really difficult time for my parents as well, because they've got 5 children who are absolutely fine. This condition wasn't around in our family whatsoever beforehand. And suddenly, the youngest is experiencing sight loss, is being told, that it's going to result in blindness. So it's a very, very difficult and challenging time for them. And then you've got, the council sending them letters saying that I need to go to special needs schools, whereas I'm like, no, I'm absolutely fine. I'm going to stick in the same school I've been in, because, I was in high school by then. I had my friends and things. So it was kind of a mixed bag of feelings that were going on. But luckily, the uncle that I had in my life, and he's been a real significant guide throughout my life. But kind of age 16, when I'd sat my GCSEs, in fact, and I did some GCSEs with hardly any support from school because unless you are registered with a disability, it's very difficult for the school to give you additional support and help. And the support that had been put in high school was the same as 3 other visually impaired children in the school year above me. And the thing was, their sight loss was significantly less than mine. So they see a lot more than I could. So they were blowing things up onto A3 for them to read. And that wasn't enough for me. I needed larger print than that. So I was constantly being tarnished with the label of being rebelling and being hard work, and the school saying that they were trying to do lots of things for me and I wasn't being forthcoming. So I ended up sitting my GCSEs based on pure memory from what I heard in the classes. And having sat that, when I got my results, I actually got a couple of A's, 5 B's, and a couple of C's. So I passed all of them. This was all based on memory. I wasn't able to devise reading any textbooks. I wasn't able to read my books, even though I did have a note taker for the last 2 years during my GCSEs. But she kept writing in joint handwriting. I kept telling her I need block text, and she didn't do that. So I couldn't read my books. And so that's when my uncle sat me down and said, look, you're clearly bright. I'd always, at that point, before that, I'd aspired to be a lawyer. I'd always wanted to be a barrister. And he said to me, look, and obviously at this time, I didn't know about the assistive technologies available. So this is back in 99, somewhere over 99. And he said, well, you need to think about either you live up to the expectations that everybody wants you to be, the stereotypical burden, the British not the British, but the Pakistani community expects you to be, or you accept you have a problem and you move on. And you have to get with anything. When you accept a problem, you have to find the way to solve that problem, and you've got to move on. But you've got 2 paths in front of you, and this is a really hard-hitting conversation for me to have at 16. And he said, "Look at your result. You're clearly able to do something, and why don't you do accountancy?" And this is something I'd never considered.
Right. So you are you still with us? Sorry.
Experience of being.
Okay. I think you're cutting out in between.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I do apologize.
Okay.
So basically, I had no experience of accountancy whatsoever, and I said I don't even know what that is. And my uncle said, well, you're really good at maths, and in accounting you'll need maths, and why don't you study A-level accounting, and from there you can then decide whether or not you want to go on to do it as a degree. So I went to college and studied A-level accounting, business studies, English language, and I absolutely fell in love with the subject. When I was very lucky to go to Blackburn College, which changed my life over the course of 99 and 2001. Because over them 2 years, Blackburn College is known to be one of the best colleges for support. They sat me down on the first day, went through all my needs, they had like different font sizes, and they looked at what I could read. They opened me up to the world of understanding that visually impaired people might struggle to read off white paper, and it turned out I ended up needing all my notes printing on yellow paper. And so little things like that. They went and they started recording my on audio. They started recording each kind of class session and everything. And within the accounting subject, I had a note taker who sat in the classroom, and on A3 with a black marker, she would write whatever was being done on the board, so I could start understanding the format of accounts. Like for anybody that's familiar, balance sheets and income and expenditure, known as profit and loss then. But the college went the extra mile to get me really kind of understanding my subjects, and where I fell behind, the college gave me one-to-one tuition and things. And over the course of them 2 years is when the college introduced me to assistive technologies that are available to use on a computer, or there's magnification kind of equipment that will blow up a paper onto a monitor and things. So all this stuff came to me in that age of 16 to 18. And it was in that same period is when the college informed me that you need to kind of speak to the hospital as well, where you need to them to decide now exactly what is disability, because at age 18, all your support in education stops unless you are registered with some disability. So I remember at age 17 going back to my consultant in Manchester and saying, look, I want to go on to university and I want support for university, and I can't get the disabled students allowance unless I have a registered disability. So it was at this age
Simon, sorry, I'd just like to pause you for a moment, because I want all the youngsters who are listening in, who are doing their GCSEs and A levels now, to think about this, that if they think it's hard work having to study, here you are, somebody whose difficulties are multiplied, and you're going through all that, and you're not only going through it, but you end up achieving all the success in the end as well, mashallah. So I just wanted to present, the youngsters who are listening in, to sort of think about you as a role model, and to see that if you're determined to do something positive, you can do it despite, regardless of any difficulties. Please continue.
Absolutely, and alhamdulillah, I told the death of my parents and family. So yeah, basically we went on, and so my consultant is at the age of 17 when he said to me that eventually you are going to result in complete blindness, and so we are going to register you blind. I ended up being diagnosed with a condition called retinitis pigmentosa, which is a condition that attacks the retina at the back of the eye. You have cones and rods which work on the retina, and it particularly attacks the rods which work in the night. That's why I had the night blindness pretty much straight away. I struggle to see in places like restaurants and cinemas and things. I tend to need a sighted guide. And it affects you going in and out of buildings. Your eyes struggle to adjust to the light changes when you're going in and out of buildings. And eventually you either end up with tunnel vision, or you lose the front vision and you end up only with the side vision. And the reason why it had taken them 7 years to diagnose me was because my condition hadn't acted typically the way that traditionally other people do. So I did have the pigmentation, etc., but I still had vision at the front and on the sides, which is why they were confused as to why I wasn't resulting in that tunnel vision or losing the front vision. So that's when I got registered, and then my college supported me through kind of getting the disability student allowance application and everything done as well, because that's part of the message that I want to give today. That there is a lot of support out there, but it's not easy to get the support in the first place, and unless you know what you're doing, people will just then give up and not progress because they think, well, I can't do Y and Z because I don't have the support. The support is there. The unfortunate thing is that a lot of people don't even know about it, and as you hear about other things that I've got involved with, there's other support that I've been mentioning as well. But the problem is, because people haven't heard of it, then people don't think that it exists, and therefore they don't utilize it. So obviously that disabled student allowance is what then provided me with a computer with the assistive technology that used to it's a screen reader basically with magnification on my desktop that I used to use at university to get the lecturers to send me the slides in advance electronically. I'd read through them. I would then introduce myself to every lecturer and tell them that they had a blind in the audience, ask them to be a bit more descriptive when they were giving lectures. So rather than when we're talking about figures, they're saying pick this figure up and divide it by this figure, to actually explain. So take the sales figure, divide it by the credit figure, whatever, so name it, so I can visualize it in my mind. I also put to my university, the department in the first week when I joined, that it's these are all my adjustments. And because obviously one of the biggest messages I want to give all disabled people out there is that most likely when people meet you, you're usually the person that they've met with that disability, and a lot of people don't know how to support you or assist you. So the onus is on us as a disabled person to explain exactly what our needs are. And so
I think especially when it comes to people with a loss of vision, because it's not always apparent looking at them. Their eyes are not that obvious. That somebody can sort of just looking at them tell that this person doesn't have vision.
Absolutely.
I know.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, to look at me, you can't tell unless you see me with my cane. You can't tell even to look at me. And so absolutely 100%. I mean, by the stage of going to university, I wasn't carrying any aid whatsoever. It was actually when I arrived at university is when the health and safety officer said to me, look, there's 10,000 students rushing between lectures, and I think it would be a really good idea if you carry the symbol cane. So symbol cane is about half the length of your regular longer cane that people might see people using on the floor for mobility. So this is just to indicate that you have a vision impairment. And at that time, during the day, I still had significant vision where I could still walk around during the day. It was the night blindness that I'd kind of taken over in the evenings, but during the day, I still had enough vision to kind of get around. A 2 or 3 meter radius around me was not as blurry as the kind of distant vision. So I started carrying a symbol cane, and like I said, I put to my department. I studied at Lancaster University. I went on, to do accounting and finance there, and I put to the department, that these are my adjustments, and if I fall behind, you need to give me one-to-one tuition so that I can catch up. Because some subjects in finance are very, very visual, regardless of however descriptive the lecturer gets. They're such complicated formulas that by the time I'd get my notes, there was no kind of notes with it to explain how you dealt with the formula. So, and throughout my time, my 3 years, they were fantastic. The university were, even though I was deterred from going to Lancaster originally, people said a lot of disabled people drop out. They're not a university that's good with disabilities, but their management school is one of the best in the country. And I thought, well, why should I miss out on going? It's high time they changed. And, by me approaching them in the first week, in Freshers Week, sitting them down, and, to be fair, I was the first blind student to go through the management school. So they took on board all the advice I gave, and between 2001 to 2005, they accommodated me, and thankfully in 2005, I left graduating with a 2-1 BA Honours in Accounting and Finance. Sorry, Abdul, I thought the line cut out there, so I just paused for.
Yeah, it did. It did momentarily. Yeah, we're back. Yeah, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, once I kind of finished accounting and finance, and while we were at university, Lancaster is a uni that assists us with trying to think about careers, what we're going to be doing after university. So when we went back for our final year in 2004, October, they called us for a lecture called the Wakeboard, and me and my friends, I remember all of us going and thinking, it's going to be a lecture now that it's your final year, you need to put your heads down and study hard, etc. But when we arrived, the first thing that our head of year said was, what are you guys going to be doing this time next year? And this wasn't anything that any of us had considered or thought about. And they said, do you know that the accounting firms recruit a year in advance? So this time next year, September 2005, if you want a job, you need to apply now. So we left that lecture and all kind of rushed back to our rooms and went online and started applying for jobs, etc. And alhamdulillah, by the November 2004, I had secured a graduate trainee program because you kind of work and you study for your professional chartered accountancy exam. So I had secured one on a conditional offer of getting a minimum of a 2-2 degree. I knew at that time that I was on for a 2-1, so I was very relaxed then for the rest of the year, and so graduated knowing that I had that position and secured with the audit commission at the time that I was going to start with.
Well, that's an absolutely remarkable story of courage and of determination. We will carry on with part 2 of the show. We are shortly going to go into a commercial break. So if you would bear us with us, Sana, then after the break we'll come back and continue with your career as well as after your graduation, inshallah. So we're going to a commercial break now. Assalamu alaikum.
Ramadan Radio, 87.9 FM.
Allah has bestowed us with another Ramadan. Its days are the perfect time to help the suffering Ummah with our supplications and our charitable giving. Make the difference with UK charity Ummah Welfare Trust by supporting its emergency, development and Ramadan programs. We are part of the Ummah, and the Ummah is a part of us. So be generous and donate for our brothers and sisters this Ramadan.
Ramadan Mubarak from Adam Accounting Services.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Need help with your accounts and tax work?
Contact us today on 01908 692 380 and see how we can help.
Adam Accounting Services, friendly local accountants. Call us today on 01908 692 380.
German Doner Kebab wishes you Ramadan Kareem. Enjoy your doner after dusk with us and choose from the original Doner Kebab, the KKL, the Doner Crunch Burger, or perhaps the Boss Box and so much more. You can find your nearest GDK at GermanDonerKebab.com or bring the Ramadan experience to your doorstep by signing up for your Ramadan pack at RamadanTentProject.com. German Doner Kebab. Kebabs done right.
Come and visit us at Al Ansar and find fantastic deals on food and drink. At Al Ansar, we specialize in Asian groceries and HMC halal meat. We stock products from all over the world and have everything you need this Ramadan, from big packs of rice, flour and oil to dates, treats and snacks. You can find us at 153 Queens Way in Bletchley or call us on 01908 411 334.
قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, the best amongst you are the ones who learn Quran and teach it to others. Do you know how I feel when I read the Quran with my mom? So wait for me. I am Miss Kaderi and my mom Amal Al-Hadithi. Wait for our show, Connecting with Children Through the Quran, every Thursday from 6:30 to 7 p.m. Shukran.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Roxana. Join me on the discussion show every Sunday from 6 to 7 p.m. where I'll be covering some hot topics with my guests.
For a list of all our sponsors, please visit RamadanFM.com.
Ramadan, 87.9 FM.
You're listening to The Health Show with your host, Abdul Rais.
All goodness and beauty, to love Him more than our lives is a duty. He is all perfection, all goodness and beauty.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Health Show on Ramadan FM 87.9 FM. Prior to the break, we were talking to our guest, Saima Ashraf, about disability, about her loss of sight, and how she managed to turn everything negative in her life into something positive. So, Saima, before the break, we were talking about your studies. I'd like to ask you to talk a little bit about your career, please, because there's quite a few things I want to ask you about after that as well. So, you work for Merseyside Police. Tell us about your job.
Yeah, so basically, I've been at Merseyside now for 8 years. Prior to that, as I mentioned, I joined kind of the audit commission, and then I moved on to working for Grant Thornton, the accounting firms, and I qualified with them. I completed my qualification. I had a little bit of a delay starting my chartered accountancy exams because the materials weren't accessible. Again, the first blind person to go through their examination process, and it took a lot of time for me to work with them to get everything accessible and developed. So where my friends all started studying for their chartered accountancy exams in 2005, I wasn't able to start working until 2008. In that time, I did start a career in audit, though. I was working auditing local government, the NHS, and the fire and police authorities. And then in 2008, I started studying, and the process is that it takes 3 years. You sit exams every couple of twice a year. You sit a couple of exams, and you work full time as well. You build up a portfolio of experience and work. And once you complete all the examinations, you submit the portfolio, and then the board approves all of that, and then you qualify as a chartered accountant. So that process took me a little longer than others because a couple of times I ended up having to defer my exams because the materials weren't accessible, and the time between the course starting, because the course usually started in February, you start exams at the end of May, or then it started in August and you start the exams at the end of November. So it's very fast paced, not much time between for materials to be developed and stuff. So I would end up having to deferring any subjects where they weren't correct, and then had to sit them 6 months later. So in the end, I qualified in 2013. I am the only registered blind chartered accountant in the UK. And I have had a 16-year career now in audit. The previous 8 years were in external audit, and now since I joined Merseyside Police, I am in internal audit. I'm a senior auditor working for them. And as I said, I've been there now for the last 8 years.
MashaAllah, alongside with the successful career, you've also had quite a few awards as well you received. Could you tell us a little about those, please?
Yeah, it's really humbling actually. The first one I won last year was there's an organisation called One Voice here in Lancashire, and they recognise people for achievement in the community. I didn't even know I was nominated until I received the email to be told that I'd won the God, it's gone out of my mind, but achievement of the year or something. It was lifetime achievement award, even lifetime achievement. And I thought I was a bit young for it, so I was thinking, in my 30s, lifetime achievement award.
Yes. Normally, people sort of like, they're sort of getting towards the end of their life before they receive it. But mashallah, you did well.
So I was thinking this is a bit of a joke when I read the email, and I've not mentioned, but the last 13 years, my sister has worked for me as my personal assistant at work. She drives me. She's my driver. She is my note taker in meetings, etc. And her position is financed through Access to Work, which is the part of Department for Work and Pensions. And it's through them that you have an assessment when you start working, where they can give you technology to assist your job, or like I said, for the role I do, which is audit, which is traveling around to see different clients in different offices, then they can pay for a personal assistant that is with you. So my sister has worked with me since 2008, for the last 13 years. And so I read this email and I said to my sister, I think somebody's having a laugh. And she said, no, I've heard of One Voice. They are a community organisation, and they do these champion awards. And I think it might be true. So I ended up giving them a call and found out actually, yes, I had won that lifetime achievement with them. So there's a ceremony held at King George's Hall, which is a nice hall here in Blackburn, where you've got the likes of the MP of Blackburn, you've got the Police Crime Commissioner, you've got the Mayor, etc. And until I didn't get there on the night, I found out that my award was the main award of the night, which was the last one given. And it was very humbling to have that standing ovation from everybody. And then this year at work, we have Community First Awards at Merseyside Police as well. And this is to recognise people within the organisation and outside the organisation for different things. There is Employee of the Year, and I won Employee of the Year 2020, and it's the first time a police staff member has won it. And it's for recognition for work done above and beyond your role at Merseyside Police. So in the past, it's always been a police officer, and so this last year was the first time, and because of COVID, we usually have a ceremony at the Hilton in Liverpool, but that was delayed last November, and then these awards were decided by our chief constable, and because he was moving on to a new role at HMIC, he wanted to give the awards himself because he has selected the winners. So we had a ceremony at the police headquarters in April with the chief con, Andy Cook. And then in November, we will be going to the next ones as the winners of 2020. So yes, I won Employee of the Year at Merseyside Police as well.
Well, mashallah, that's chiefly congratulations on those awards, and of course, you also present a show called Let's Talk on Pendo Community Radio. If you could tell us a little bit about that before I come to my final question on about your charitable work.
Well, they kind of go align with each other, because I kind of into going on Pendle because of being interviewed on there for one of my charity events. So I might touch on the charity side first, I think, maybe just because that's kind of how I ended up on Pendle. So basically, I've always been very kind of orientated in giving back to the community. Kind of started at university. Me and my friends set up a society at university and called the United Nations Association, and they are affiliated with the charity every year. So it was the clearing of landmines, and throughout my years at uni, we did a lot of work to fundraise for that. Then the earthquake in Pakistan happened in 2005 as we were leaving uni. So me and my uni friends did a lot of work raising for them. Then in 2013, I heard about a child who had blood cancer from London. I heard an interview on BBC Asian Network, and I felt compelled to ring in and say, what can I do to help? Because the child was the same age as one of my nieces. And I was sat with my sister, and I said, it was lunchtime at work, and we were just listening in, and I said to her, that could be, her daughter was the same age. And I said, we should help. So they said that we need to do, because sometimes charity isn't just in monetary terms, there's other work that we can do as well. And they said we need people to join the donor register. So I said, well, what can I do? And they it was working with Delete Blood Cancer. And over the next 4 weeks, we planned a donor drive here in Blackburn, because we have obviously a huge Asian community. And while I was doing that, I was thinking, well, it's not enough. One donor drive is not enough, because they said usually one successful donor drive has about 100 people signing up. And I thought, well, this is enough. What else can we do? So then I thought, what about the Jummah, the different massages we can target there? Because there's so many Asians congregated every Friday. And that kind of snowballed, where people picked up the same momentum in Manchester, in Leeds, and they started doing the same thing at the Friday prayers, going around the cities, doing the donor drives there as well. And then at the end of August, my donor drive was on the 31st of August 2013. I'd heard that Rahat Fateh Ali Khan was touring, and he was going to be starting at the Manchester Arena and then Birmingham and Leeds. So I just picked up the phone. I researched online, find out who the promoter was bringing him. Never met him in my life, rang him, organized a meeting with him in Manchester, went down, and I persuaded him to let me do donor drives at the free concerts as well. Because I thought there were going to be thousands of Asians, and let me do, and I was a huge Rahat fan anyway. I'd seen him so many times before, but and with that, he agreed, and he allowed that to happen. And over the course of the 8 weeks, over 2,000 people registered. And a year later, I got a letter from Delete Blood Cancer saying that 7 people had matched from the 2,000 people that joined at that time. There'd been 7 matches and 7 lives changed. So that was, in 2015 that I heard that, and I hope people continued. I know I'm still registered on that. So always had that side to me, always wanted to give back. And obviously then I've always been passionate about supporting people with blindness, visual impairment. And so an opportunity came my way in 2018 when a school for blind children in Liverpool called St. Vincent's approached me to become a governor of the school. And obviously I went and I visited the school and saw the work that they were doing. And they're doing a lot of work with blind children all around the world. And it was part of that I decided that I definitely want to be part of this journey. So in 2019, I don't know if people are aware, but the most blind people in the world, blind children in the world are from Indonesia. And this is because there is a black fly that causes blindness. And there's over 100,000 children with blindness in Indonesia. We as a school decided that we have space. It's a residential school. So we invited 8 children from Indonesia and 8 teachers from Indonesia to come to Liverpool, and they stayed at the school for 6 weeks. We trained them in the wheelchairs where they had zero independence. They were so scared to take a step because they didn't know where they were going to step, and they'd never been trained with any mobility. and their lives got transformed in them 6 weeks where they became independent children. And one of the things I really want the listeners to hear, when these children arrived, the first weekend we asked them, what do you want us to arrange for you? And in my mind, I thought they'll go to the UK, they'll probably want to go to Liverpool Football Club, or they'll probably want to go to the cinema or something. These kids asked us to arrange for them the opportunity to run, because they'd never been allowed to run. Because as you know, in the countries like Pakistan, in India, in Bangladesh, with disabilities, you're put in a room, everything's a danger. And they said, we've never been allowed to run. So in Southport, we booked a running track. We organized a school with sighted children to come, and we paired them up with the blind kids, and they held their hands and they ran around this track. And it was the most amazing to see them. They were so happy. One of the most simplest things that our kids do day in, day out, and these children have not had that opportunity. So with that, I thought that because it's a lot of Muslims benefiting, then as a Muslim governor of that school, even though St. Vincent's is not, it's a Catholic school, but it caters to everybody. It doesn't discriminate against faith or color or anything. So I decided I'm going to organize a dinner and Diwali night, and it was the first of its kind in Liverpool, and that was organized in the August of 2019. And for that is when I was invited on Pendle for an interview, and my story kind of heard there. And after meeting me and kind of having that introduction, Pendle actually approached me asking me to host a program, and I was thinking I won't be able to use the system, etc. So one of my very, very good friends, Zain Shabir, was a presenter on there. So I said, okay, I'll co-host with him, and we can kind of do that. And so we co-hosted between September to December for 3-4 months. But he was like, you can do everything. And he was like, you can learn to use the system. And he had that leap, and I did over the 3-4 months with no assistive technology. I learned how to use the faders and everything like that. And when I'm in the studio, I have the light off and I can see the light flickering when calls are coming through. And so then by January 2020, I was confident to do my own show. And that's when I pitched to the station that I want to do affairs, because I think community stations are there to educate the community, and we need to kind of really use that position rather than just coming on and playing tracks, etc. So I started a current affairs program in January 2020. I've covered topics like organ donation, drugs and alcoholism, gambling addiction, sexual abuse, rape, age. A lot of the taboo topics I've brought people on, experts on, to discuss these topics, and the feedback has been absolutely fantastic from the Pendle community, and people really, really pleased with the program. So thankfully, 18 months on, it's still a success, and we're still doing it.
MashaAllah, and I think you're absolutely right about the local community radio stations. Unfortunately, here in Milton Keynes, we only have Ramadan FM, which is there during Ramadan, of course, and we're probably some distance away before getting into some kind of community radio station, but we all live in hope. I understand you're planning on going to Pakistan in later on this year. Is that? I just wondered, is that anything to do with a charitable work, or is it just a social visit? Yes. Okay.
It looks like I'm probably going to end up having to do 2 visits, because one of my charity projects was delayed from 2020. So after the success of the children coming here from Indonesia, we decided that it would probably be better that if we took a delegation of people over to the whichever country we selected and trained more children, because fair enough, them 8 children benefited, the teachers did, and we have had videos of them going back and training, the kids becoming trainers of the other children, and the teachers becoming trainers of other teachers, and we have had that success. But we felt that maybe if we took a selection of people from here abroad, and because me being British Pakistani, it was selected as Pakistan to be the first country we're going to go to. We are linked with Rotary, because Rotary has supported a lot of the work that St. Vincent's already doing. Our kids at St. Vincent's have developed sports equipment, which is through the Rotary network, is being delivered to over 20 countries already. Blind children all around the world, through playing these sports and using that equipment, they're learning mobility and stuff. So building on that, the plan is, inshallah, we're working with Lahore. There is a blind school in Lahore, there is one in Kharia, and there is one in Azad Kashmir. But we're not just focusing on the blind school, the kids with, with the schools, with the blind children. I'm trying to target them people who have had no support and have been left in the villages, etc., because people have thought they can't do anything. And we're trying to tap into that network of people because we want to go there. There's a company from America that is providing us with the canes, and we want to go and give them some mobility. So if nothing else, they at least have some independence in their homes, in their local kind of area, just in their street, etc., rather than being stuck in a room. And I personally have visited Pakistan throughout my life, and I have been treated like an invalid when I've been there. I've first-hand experienced the way that our community treats people. I hate the word bichari. I get that reference all the time, and I just think you've got no idea, of my capabilities. I live on my own. I do all my housework myself, but even now I still have aunties who will say to me, "Oh, does your mum come around every week to do your ironing? Does your mum come to do your cleaning?" And I said to one auntie just a few months back that no, I iron my clothes myself, and she grabbed my clothes and she said, "Oh, you've done a really good job." This is how patronizing our community is. And so, and so I really know how it is in the countries. They're trying to make that change. So, subject to COVID, the project is planned for September. We're going to be going in the last 2 weeks of September. And then I was meant to be going in October for some family weddings anyway. So this is why I'm saying that it might result in going twice in 2 months. Right.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a remarkable job, mashallah, of trying to help people with special needs. And I'm just wondering, what you said about how people are patronizing and sympathetic in a negative way towards someone with a disability. Do you think there's a need for to raise awareness among people that so they don't treat that you're no different to anybody else? You just need to explain. And
100%. There is there's a real lack of belief where people don't realize that we can achieve. I do. I mean, I have created a page just last year because people are on my case now that you need to vlog or something to show the things that you're able to do. So I do have an Instagram page, blind_auditor. Because of the pandemic, I've not been able to put much videos on. But as soon as things open up, I will start doing, because I live a very life just like everybody else. I have hobbies. I go rifle shooting, which is actually adjusted for blind people. I've done horse riding. I'm just starting a project where one of the biggest things I miss is riding my bike. So near the end of May, through Galloway, is a different organisation that I work with here in Preston, Lancashire, which is dealing with blind adults and visually impaired adults. We're starting a project where we're going to be getting some tandem bikes, and we're going to get out there and start bike riding again. So we have a sighted guide at the front who's the pilot, and a blind person at the back. And so we're going to start that project. So I'm all about awareness and trying to make people realize that it's not about what you can't do, it's everything that you can do. And if you're given an opportunity and given the right support, you can go and achieve everything and anything you want to do. The sky's the limit. The barriers are people, and especially within the BAME community, the families are a barrier. There's a lot of families I'm working with trying to educate them to allow their children to do things, to allow them to go and achieve, because it's the family that limits them, who have the belief that they can't do X and they can't do Y. And sadly, there's a lot of families that over the last 20 years I've been trying to get them to get their children to become independent, because I've always said, their answer has always been, no, where? The parents are like, no, where? And I've always said, but God forbid anything happens to you, what you're going to have made your child so dependent. How are they going to cope? Nobody can stay with somebody forever. You need to allow them to become independent. I mean, I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. My parents, alhamdulillah, still alive. If I say jump, they'll say how high. And they're willing to do everything and anything for me. I have 5 nieces, 5 nephews who are willing to bend over and do everything for me. But it's not about that. There's no lack in love, when you try and do things yourself. The point is that tomorrow, I am capable and able of living on my own, and this is now something that there's a lot of people in our community who are struggling now. There's parents who are in their late 60s and their 70s who are like, I've got arthritis now, I can't do everything for my child, and my child's now in the 30s, in the 40s, and they're not doing anything, and I'm like, it's too late. Old habits die young. You've put them, you've nurtured them, you've made them like this now. And so this is a real education that has to happen within the BAME community, that they've got to realize that there's a lot of support out there. Access the forums. If your child has whatever disability it is, through social media, there's groups on Facebook. You can find other people. If you don't know anything about it, go online, read up about the condition, get better knowledge, and then assist your child in doing whatever they want to do. With all that support, they can go and achieve whatever they aspire, whatever they want to be.
Absolutely. And on that positive note, Simon, sadly, we've come to the end of the program. Thank you very much for being a guest on the show. And I'm sure that the listeners would have benefited from all the positive things you've put across. So the program comes to an end now. I should be back, inshallah, on Monday with the Urdu show, and the health show will be back next Saturday, inshallah. Until then, take care of yourselves. Remember us in your du'as. Salam alaikum.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Easy to be there.